Dear friends, welcome to InQUEST. In this video, let's discuss about 8th October 2021 daily current affairs. And this activity is useful for your UPSC, KPSC and all other competitive examinations. And PDF will be given in the description box. You may download the same for further reading. Index of today's discussion, genetic proof for domestication of sheep is provided by Central University of Kerala. So in this article, we will be learning about the origin of sheep in India. Were they domesticated in India itself or were they migrated from other countries in the world? Number two, sixth edition of India-UK Joint Company Level Military Training. So in this article, we will be discussing about the objectives of this training and who will be participating from both the countries. Number three, HAL delivers heaviest propellant tank to ISRO. So in this article, we will be learning about the properties of this new propellant tank. Number four, Nobel 2021 in literature. So who has won this award and for what contribution? So the first article is genetic proof for domestication of sheep. So the basic understanding of this article is there are two main breeds of sheep that are present in India right now. One is called as lineage A and one other one is called as lineage B. Now, in this article, we will be learning about origin of these two breeds. Were they domesticated in India itself or were they migrated from other countries, and the difference between earlier research and the present research. Now let's first talk about lineage A breeds of sheep. So what was the earlier general belief? They were actually domesticated then in West Asia alone, and that they had arrived in Indian subcontinent through migration. So earlier belief was, so this is where we have West Asia and this is where we have South Asia. So they were actually domesticated in West Asia alone. Later they actually migrated to India was the earlier belief. Now what Central University of Kerala claims, so domestication of sheep had taken place in the Indian subcontinent, especially in Indus Valley civilization regions in the 6th or 7th millennium BC. So according to new claim by CUK, so they were actually domesticated in India itself in Indus Valley civilization regions 6th or 7th millennium BC. Now, what are the different breeds that come under lineage A? So we have Bellari, Coimbatore, Asan, Kattai Khati Black and Nilgiri and Ramnand White and Vembor. So these are the different breeds of lineage, A. Now, what is the importance of this particular research? Even though India ranks the second in terms of sheep population, so we rank second in terms of sheep population, represented by as many as 44 well-described breeds. So we have around 44 well-described breeds in India, but genetic diversity and phylogeography of these Indian sheep breeds remained poorly understood, and particularly the South Indian breeds. But this, research is, throwing light on this particular lacuna. So that is where we, with, genetic proof that they are providing. So with this, let's see the lineage B, breeds. So what was the earlier proposal by the researchers of China? They said that introduction of sheep lineage B into the Indian subcontinent from the Mongolian plateau. Now, what is the new claim of CUK? Introduction of sheep lineage B into Indian subcontinent had been through the sea route. So earlier claim was, so from this Mongolian plateau, so the actually sheep migrated to India was the claim of Chinese researchers, but CUK says that their migration was through sea route. So this is the difference between earlier research and the research conducted by Central University of Kerala. For this, they provide genetic, proof. Now, what are the breeds of lineage B? So there are only two breeds of lineage B. One is called as Mandya, other one is called as Sonadi. So with this, let's move on to the article number 2. The 6th edition of India-UK Joint Company Level Military Training Exercise that is titled as Ajaya Warrior. So this is important. So Ajaya Warrior exercise has been conducted between India and UK, and this has commenced at Chaubatia in the state of Uttarakhand and will culminate on 20th October 2021. Now, what is the purpose of this exercise? The exercise is a part of an initiative to develop interoperability and sharing expertise with friendly foreign nations. Who will be participating here? During the exercise, an infantry company from Indian Army and an equivalent strength from UK Army would be sharing their experiences gained during the conduct of various military operations in their respective countries during overseas engagement. So there will be, mutual exchange of information or sharing of experiences of their own countries with respect to both the countries like India and UK in this joint company level military training. So that is titled as Jaya Warrior. So with this, let's go to article number 3. HAL delivers heaviest propellant tank to ISRO. Now in this article, we will be learning majorly about these propellant tanks. Now what do you mean by propellant? So to say it in simple words, propellant is nothing but the fuel that is going to be used in rockets for space activities or launching different satellites. So here the propellant is different from the conventional fuels that we are using every day. The fuels that we are using every day might not be used for these particular exercises because the atmosphere that is in space might not support the combustion of these fuels. So for that reason, there will be special kind of fuels that will be used in launching of rockets and space exercises. So we will be learning about these propellants in this article. So the heaviest semi-cryogenic propellant tank. So this is what you need to remember. This is not cryogenic this time. This is semi-cryogenic propellant tank ever fabricated by Hindustan Aeronautic Limited has been delivered to Indian Space Research Organization ISRO. The semi-cryo liquid oxygen, it is in short called as LOX tanks, the first developmental welded hardware is a part of SC-120. SC-120 is semi-cryogenic 120 stage intended for payload enhancement. So it is actually helping to enhance payload by replacing the L10. So it was the earlier payload enhancer L10 stage in existing Mark III launch vehicle. Last year, HAL had delivered the biggest ever cryogenic liquid hydrogen tank. So it was cryogenic liquid. Now we are talking about semi-cryogenic propellant this year. So as a strategic reliable partner, HAL has been associated with ISRO for India's prestigious space programs for 5 decades now. HAL has delivered critical structures, tankages, satellite structures for the PSLV, GSLV Mark II, GSLV Mark III launch vehicles, etc. Now, but how a semi-cryogenic engine works? So this is what we need to understand. But to understand the function and use of semi-cryogenic engine, we first need to understand what is cryogenic engine. So let's talk about cryogenic engine. So rocket engine needs enormous amount of thrust to escape Earth's gravity pull. So as we know, there is a lot of gravitational pull. So to escape from Earth's gravitational pull, these rocket engines need enormous thrust to escape. However, the chemicals used for engines are hydrogen and oxygen. So the fuels or the chemicals used in these rocket launching are basically hydrogen and oxygen. What is the purpose of hydrogen? Hydrogen is used as a fuel and oxygen is used as an oxidizer that produces good thrust found in Earth in the form of gases. So these hydrogen and oxygen are found in the form of gases. Now, what is the disadvantage of gaseous forms of hydrogen and oxygen? So carrying hydrogen and oxygen in their gaseous form will require bigger fuel chambers. Since density of gases is low, they actually occupy more volume. So if they are carried in gaseous stage itself, they occupy more space. Now, what is the disadvantage of occupying more space, which not only increases the size, but also weight of the rockets, and this will mean undertaking of impossible task to send a launch vehicle into space. So due to more occupying of space, it increases the size and also the weight of the rocket, so that becomes practically impossible to use such fuels in their liquid state. Now, what is the other alternative? So the solution is to use hydrogen and oxygen in their liquid form. So this is why this is the reason why these oxygen and hydrogen will be converted into liquid form or in a cryogenic form, which is easier to transport as the volume of the propellant decreases. So they will be converted into liquid form or into cryogenic form. So that is when it becomes easy for us to use these fuels in rocket launching. So that is what is called as cryogenic engine. So as density increases, so when the fuel is converted from gas to liquid, the density of the fuels is going to increase. When the density increases, they actually take less volume. So one more advantage of liquid form is they produce more thrust can be produced, so in less burning time. So such engines are called as cryogenic engines. So the liquid fuel form, they actually produce more thrust and in less burning time. So both are important. So it takes less time to produce more energy. At the same time, the quantum of thrust they produce is huge, and such engines are called as cryogenic engines. So cryogenic fuel is used in rockets, spaceship, and satellite, because ordinary fuel cannot be used in space due to the absence of an environment that support combustion. This fuel requires storage at an extremely low temperature, that is minus 253 degrees Celsius, to maintain them in liquid state. So, but one of the major problem or a hurdle, I can say, that to maintain these fuels in liquid state, the low temperature has to be maintained, that is as low as minus 253 degrees Celsius. That is again a task. Now let's talk about cryogenic engine. Now, what are the advantages that semi-cryogenic engine that offers against the cryogenic engine? Because this is the new engine that is delivered by HAL to ISRO. Unlike a cryogenic engine, a semi-cryogenic engine uses refined kerosene. So look at the fuel here. Earlier it was hydrogen and oxygen. Now it is refined kerosene instead of liquid hydrogen, and liquid oxygen is used as an oxidizer. So oxygen is common in both semi-cryogenic and cryogenic, but instead of hydrogen, there will be usage of refined kerosene in semi-cryogenic engine. Now, what is the advantage of this? So that is the advantage of using a semi-cryogenic engine, as it requires refined kerosene, which is lighter than liquid fuel. So basically, the first advantage is it is lighter than liquid fuel and can be stored in a normal temperature. So there is no necessity to have lower temperature, as we saw in case of cryogenic engine, it requires negative temperature. But refined kerosene can be stored at room temperature itself. That reduces lot of efforts to maintain the temperature. And kerosene combines with liquid oxygen provide a higher thrust to rocket. So it is going to provide more thrust, more thrust can be produced than that of the hydrogen fuel. So refined kerosene occupies lesser space, making it possible to carry more propellant in semi-cryogenic engine fuel compartment. So since it is going to occupy less volume, they can carry more fuel. So if it occupies more volume, then you cannot carry much of the fuel. So these are all the advantages of semi-cryogenic engine. So let's see the basic differences between cryogenic and semi-cryogenic. So cryogenic, we use hydrogen and oxygen in their liquid form or in a cryogenic form. So in semi-cryogenic engine, we use refined kerosene instead of liquid hydrogen, and liquid oxygen is used as an oxidizer in both the cases. So cryogenic engines, engines have to be stored at an extremely low temperature, about minus 253 degrees Celsius. But semi-cryogenic, the kerosene, refined kerosene, can be stored at normal temperature itself. So main advantage of semi-cryogenic engine over cryogenic is a semi-cryogenic engine is more powerful, environment friendly, and cost effective as compared to cryogenic engine. So with this, let us understand the importance of semi-cryogenic engine with respect to various stages of launching of these vehicles. So GSLV, that is geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle, uses three-stage launching system. Now what are they? First stage is called as solid stage, which provide lift off to the rocket, so which basically takes place at the level of launching at the stage of earth. So it takes off from the earth. That stage is called as first stage, and that is in here it is called as solid stage. And second stage is called as liquid stage. After it takes off from earth, so after it reaches the atmosphere and somewhere in the midway is called as second stage. So it is actually called as liquid stage. And third stage, this is where we actually call it as cryogenic stage. So this stage provides a good amount of thrust so that we can put satellite into geostationary orbit. So once it crosses the orbit, and it requires a lot of thrust to actually put these satellites into geostationary orbit. So that is where cryogenic stage will come into picture. This cryogenic stage actually produces good amount of thrust so that it helps to put satellites into geostationary orbit. So these are the three different stages of launching system. And India developed the technology of cryogenic engine, and to develop it further, ISRO require to use the combination of solid, and second semi cryogenic, and third cryogenic stage, instead of a combination of solid, liquid, and cryogenic. So this was the initial method of launching. So first stage, as I told you, the solid, second stage is liquid, and third stage is cryogenic. Now it can be possibly replaced by, first stage will be retained as it is, that is solid, but in the second stage they can use semi cryogenic. We discussed so far the advantage of semi cryogenic, and the third stage can be retained as cryogenic stage itself. So the new possibility is in the first stage, solid solid stage. So it was as usual, like how it was before. Second stage could be replacement of liquid with semi cryogenic stage, and third stage will be cryogenic stage as itself. So this will be the second stage, will be the major change with the introduction of semi cryogenic fuel tanks. So using a semi cryogenic engine in second stage, GSLV will be able to provide more thrust and carry more weight into the space. India planned to use semi-cryogenic engine in GSLV, Geosynchronous Launch Vehicle, ULV, that is Unified Launch Vehicle, and RLV, that is Reusable Launch Vehicle in future. So these are all the details about this particular semi-cryogenic engine. So with this, let's go to the last article. Tanzanian novelist wins Nobel, and the name of this gentleman is Abdul Razak Gurna, who won 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fate of the refugee. He is actually based in Britain. Mr. Gurna is the first African writer to win the award since the Zimbabwean Doris Lessing in 2007, and the only second writer of color from sub-Saharan Africa after Nigeria's Ole Soyinka, who won in the year 1986. So these are all the articles of the day. So if you have any questions, you can definitely put in comments box. We will be more happy to answer to your questions. Thanks for watching. Namaskara.